Hello and welcome to my presentation. I'll be talking about the structure and function of the cardiovascular system. So, what does the cardiovascular system do? We use the cardiovascular system for everyday demands of daily life, and it helps us through sports. The system provides us with nutrients. These are delivered through the blood flow and are brought to cells and organs. The cardiovascular system has two systems. These are the pulmonary and the systemic. Yet these have different jobs. And the cardiovascular also helps us through exercise. It makes our blood pressure rise, heart contractions happen quicker, and we intake more oxygen. There are many functions of the cardiovascular system. These functions take place at the same time. These are the delivery of nutrients, removal of waste products and transport of oxygen, clotting, protection from infection, and thermoregulation. The nutrients are a very important element which allows our body to perform daily activities. The proteins which allow us to do sport and functions are fats, carbohydrates and proteins, and many more. Yet these are the main three in sport. Carbohydrates give us energy, protein allows us to build muscle. We need these nutrients for sport. The nutrients are transported through the circulatory system, through the capillaries, and then to cells. The cardiovascular system has a key role in our health and avoids us from keeping waste products in our body for too long. The waste products consist of carbon dioxide, which is produced during sport. This is removed through the system. Another waste product is urea, which is dealt with in a different system. The cardiovascular system transports oxygen all around the body. This is done through the pulmonary system, which carries the oxygen from the lungs to the heart and then back and then all around the body. This works in a cycle, with deoxygenated blood being pumped to the heart, then to the lungs, and the oxygenated goes from the lungs to the pulmonary veins back to the heart. This helps us in sport as it supplies us with oxygenated blood and does not tire our muscles. When we cut ourselves on accident, the cardiovascular system takes care of the wounds. It does this by creating a clot at the wound. The clot consists of red blood cells bunching together and platelets, and this helps us stop the loss of blood. The veins vasoconstrict to stop the loss of blood as well. This helps us in sport as we don't lose too much blood and we are able to continue with playing. The cardiovascular system contains three types of cells: red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. White blood cells fight off infections and antibodies to destroy the infection. This keeps us healthy and we are able to continue playing sport. Without the white blood cells, we would be under constant infection prone and would not be healthy. These help us play sport and they will allow us to stay protected and healthy. The cardiovascular system is responsible for the thermoregulation of the body. The cardiovascular system exchanges heat between the internal body tissues, organs, and the skin. This heat is produced in deep organs and in contraction of skeletal muscles. During sports, the main heat loss is sweat. The heart is a double circulation. It pumps out two ways through two different systems, the pulmonary and the systemic. The pulmonary circuit shows how blood is transported around the body through the veins and arteries. It also shows where the vena cava is and where it sends the deoxygenated blood to. This blood is collected from the muscles. The pulmonary circuit is where gas exchange is taking place and delivery of deoxygenated blood to the heart. While systemic, we can see in this image where the oxygenated blood is sent to through the capillaries and how deoxygenated is gas exchange in the lungs. We can see where the blood enters and leaves the heart and the aorta is. This blood is sent to the muscles. This is from the lungs to the heart, and then to the muscles. This circuit is the delivery of rich oxygenated blood to the heart, and then pumped out to the muscles. The heart is a dual pump system. It pumps blood all around the body through the pulmonary vein from the right ventricle, and also pumps blood to the lungs through the aorta from the left ventricle. As the heart contracts, the two ventricles contract and force the blood out of the two exits. With this is a dual pump system. As two sides are pumping. The heart does this to keep a supply of rich oxygen going around the body for us to use this when doing sport. Without oxygenated blood, we would be fatigued and unable to play sport. The heart has many parts to it. On the inside there are small things that play key parts to the heart contracting. First, blood enters the atriums. From here the atrium sends 70% of blood into the ventricles, where they must pass through the valves, the bicuspid and the tricuspid. These valves both do the same job and structured differently to one another. From its name, the tricuspid, this valve has 3 chordate tendones, and the bicuspid valve only has 2. These are extremely strong, as they must stop the backflow of blood and are tendons. They can also be remembered as the heartstrings. These then connect to the papillary muscles. These help with stopping the backflow of blood also. When the blood is in the ventricles, it then needs to leave the heart and being pumped around the body. They are forced out of the ventricles and to the pulmonary valve and aortic valves. These then take the blood to the individual parts of the body. This has 2 parts to it: the parietal pericardium, which is the outer layer of the sac, and the visceral pericardium, the inner layer. This acts as a balloon with the heart in the middle. The sac also contains fluid inside of it. The epicardium covers the heart outer surface, while the pericardium is in the inner cover for the heart. The endocardium is the most inner layer. This is a smooth membrane. From here the ventricles form and is their wall. The myocardium is the muscular wall of the heart, and where contraction takes place. The heart is also responsible for the cardiac cycle. There are a few things that happen here. During the relaxation phase, also known as diastole, blood fills up in the heart ventricles. Then there is a contraction which is called systole, where blood is ejected from the heart to the arteries and to the aorta. When the heartbeat happens, the blood is pumped where blood is ejected from the heart to the arteries and then to the aorta. When the heartbeat happens, the blood is then pumped out of the heart and goes to the circuits which they are in. Every heartbeat there is a contraction or relaxation phase. This is to fill the heart with oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood, and then send this around the body. In this, the sinoatrial node, which is a natural pacemaker in the heart, this is situated above the right atrium. This sends an impulse telling the blood to flow from the right atrium and left into the ventricles. As the impulse travels, it gets to the atrioventricular node, which is in the right atrium. This starts contraction. The impulse then travels down a bundle of hairs. These are the cardiac muscles which carry the impulse. They travel down the septum between each ventricle and then branch off either side, which are called the bundle branches. When they are here, the impulse spreads out to Purkinje fibers. They are on the inner ventricle walls. They contract and push the blood out of the ventricles. How the conduction system controls the cardiac cycle. The conduction system helps the control of the cardiac cycle by the contractions. The conduction system is in charge of the atrial systole and atrial diastole. Atrial diastole is the filling of blood. This is ventricular diastole. This is where passive filling takes place. This means the blood flows into the ventricles. As the rest of the blood needs to come through the atrial contraction, and this means the blood flows into the ventricles. As the rest of the blood needs to come through, the atrial contraction takes place. This pushes the rest of the blood from the atriums into the ventricles. This is called active filling. This all happens in the space of 1 second. And then there's atrial systole. This is the ejection of blood. As this takes place, the ventricular systole, where the blood is being ejected through the different valves. Systole means contraction. All of this takes place in 2 seconds. Autonomic influence on the cardiac cycle. The autonomic is influenced by many things. The sympathetic nervous system is through the accelerator nerve. This increases the blood flow and blood pressure. This influences the SAN node and speeds up the heart rate. While the parasympathetic nervous system is used through the vagus nerve and is used to slow down the blood flow and blood pressure, influences the heart rate by slowing it down. Adrenaline also takes a huge effect on heart rate. The accelerator is excited and the vagus nerve is inhibited. As feedback is given from various places in the body, the brain unconsciously sends an impulse from the SAN node to either excite or inhibit it. Adrenaline increases the blood pressure and the heart rate due to the fight or flight motive. This is caused by a chemical being released into the body. Introduction of blood vessels. There are 5 different types of blood vessels in our body. They are structured differently from one another. These are vessels and veins, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, and venules. The role of each vessel is mostly to carry the blood to our body. Yet some carry the blood away from the heart and some towards the heart. Arteries leave the heart and branch into smaller vessels, which are the arterioles. These feed parts of the organs with nutrients that branch into capillaries. From here, the capillaries are where chemical and gaseous exchange occurs. This drains into venules, the smallest vessels. These then go into the veins, which return the blood to the heart. Blood's role is to supply oxygen to tissues and bring nutrients. Blood structure and functions. Blood has many roles in it. Blood has many roles in it. Erythrocytes. These are the red blood cells. They have a lifespan of 120 days and are colored with a red pigment. These cells have no nucleus, so that they have more room to carry O2 with them. They are shaped in a circular and biconcave disc, so they have larger surface for gas exchange. They are initially made in red bone marrow, and their main role is to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide from and to cells. Leukocytes. These are the white blood cells of our body. They have very short lifespan and can only last up to a couple of hours. They are larger than red blood cells and use the bloodstream as a transportation to get to the infected area. These cells are used to fight infection and are able to produce antibodies to destroy germs. They do this by surrounding infected cells and engulfing them. These cells also originate from red bone marrow. Platelets. This part of the blood are used to prevent blood loss from a scab or a cut. They can last up to 7 to 9 days, and they are the smallest cells in blood. They have no colour to them, nor a nucleus. These also release an enzyme when they get in contact with air or fatty deposits. They help with the clotting of blood by bringing the red blood cells together to stop the flow of blood, exciting the scab. Plasma. This is the liquidy cell part of the blood and is a straw-coloured substance. This is yellowish. It's made up of 90% of water and is a higher percentage of total blood volume. This is 55%. Plasma dissolves hormones, glucose, and others. Blood vessels' structure and function. Each vessel is structured differently from them to function their own way. Some are structured the same, whilst others aren't. An artery and a vein are both structured quite similarly. They both contain the tunica adventitia, which is also known as the tunica externa. This part of the vessels is the sheath of connective tissue, which may anchor to other tissues. They both contain the tunica media. This part has smooth muscle and collagen elastic fibers within it, and is used to control the diameter of the vessel. This then links to the function of the vessels. It controls the blood pressure and constriction, because diameter means how wide the vessel is. It must control how it constricts, and therefore resulting in the blood pressure raising and lowering. Yet, arteries' lumen are always much smaller than veins, and they push blood all around the body. This part of the vessels also control the dilation of the vessels, allowing more blood to flow through the vessels. This only applies for arteries and small arterioles. Last of all, they both have the tunica intima, the inner side of a vessel. This is endothelial lining and has elastic connective tissue. Arteries are also stretched and recalled during systole and diastole. They do this to help the movement of blood around the vessels and distribution of blood. Unlike arteries, there is no pulse travelling through the veins. This is important as we don't want the veins to distend when blood flows through them. The diameter of the lumen in each vessel varies. The vein has the largest lumen, then the arterioles, and so on, as we can see from this image here. These all have different blood pressure when the blood flows through them. They are structured for a certain amount of pressure to allow it in them, and with capillaries being very small lumen, their pressure is very high, as they have one cell going through them at once, whilst the veins pressure is very low, as it has a large lumen. The surface area also varies from each blood vessel. This is to help with the resistance of blood. The diameter and the lumen also plays a part of this, as the larger lumen is less resistance, because they're larger. The surface area also varies from each blood vessel. This is to help with resistance blood. The diameter with the lumen also plays a part of this, as the larger the lumen, the less resistance they'll face.